Woman of Culture 365 presents The Mia Allman Show, hosted by yours truly, Coach Mia, a certified master life coach, health advocate, self-empowerment educator, who's sharing an in-depth conversation on how to master self, important issues that affect our mental wellness, health and wellness tips, to embracing and celebrating our cultural heritage, and much more. Good evening, everyone. I am Coach Lady Mia. Thank you all for tuning in on Glow 365 for the Mia Allman Show, presented by official Woman of Culture 365, right here on Caribbean Rhythms Radio Network. On today's show, we are celebrating not just Jamaica's independence, but giving you a better understanding of our culture and history. But before we get into the specifics of this evening's show, let's take a quick break. And when we return, I'll introduce my special guest. We'll be right back.
The Jamaican American Association of Central Florida invites you to our annual Jamaica Independence and Scholarship Awards banquet on August 12th, 6:30 till 1 a.m. at the Hilton Hotel in Altamont Springs. Our special guest speakers, Honorable Oliver Mayer, Consul General of Jamaica in Miami, Mr. Xavier Murphy of Jamaicans.com, and our MC, Lady D of CAC Radio. Special guest, Mr. Peter Gracie, Global Jamaica Diaspora Council Representative. Music by Caribbean Groove Band. Purchase tickets at jaaocf.com or call 407-292-3719. That's 407-292-3719. You do not want to miss this one.
Welcome back on the Mia Allman Show on Caribbean Rhythms Radio. If you just joined us, we are celebrating Jamaica's 61st independence and the importance of understanding our culture and history. But coming up, this is a gentleman that is like, if you don't know him, you need to get to know him. He's a dear friend of mine, born Jamaican, Mr. Xavier Murphy. Now, let me give you a little bit about him, because if I tell you his whole bio, I'm telling you, we'll be here all the way to next year sometime, or maybe longer. But he is the founder of Jamaicans.com that has been connecting Jamaicans, around the world, covering news, travel, culture, politics in Jamaica and the Caribbean since, I'm assuming, 1995, maybe longer than that. And the largest Jamaican diaspora website. Again, the largest Jamaican diaspora website. So, that tells you a lot about this gentleman right here. He's a community leader. And as a pioneer in the South Florida area for many, many years, he has made the connection with the diaspora from, organizations. He's made it so easier to connect through various means of organizations, to future leaders groups, education, communication, and to celebrating and raising awareness about our cultural Jamaica and everything else that is cultural Jamaican, the cuisine, the patois language, to many top guests that he has interviewed. And we're going to talk to him about that. So let me introduce no other than Xavier Murphy to the Mia Allman Show.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Mia. Good afternoon to your audience. And it looks like I need to take you with me, because if I need an introduction, Mia, you are doing the perfect job. So I need to take you with me everywhere I go, because you're going to make me look better than I am.
Hey, look, me have to big up my brethren, when it comes to, we born in the same island, maybe different parish, but you gotta big up your people. Them, they like family.
Exactly, and let me also say you're doing a great job keeping the Jamaican culture alive, telling our stories, and I appreciate what you do. I appreciate what you do on the radio and the media and your magazine, and just can't say enough about doing that in the Central Florida area. But not only do you reach the Central Florida area, you reach the world. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you so much, Xavier, for that. Those kind words. It really means a lot, coming from you. But before we get into talking about Jamaicans.com, I want to go back to your birthplace. Tell us about where you were born, where you went to school. What was it like growing up as a child in Jamaica?
So I was born in Kingston. I know everybody say Kingston, but the majority of my life, I will say, was spent in Portmore. So I truly believe I'm a Portmorite, and that's pretty much where I grew up. I went to Independence Prep School. Started out at Musgrave Prep, which was in Crossroads, and then went to Independence City Prep. And then I went to the life changing, the school of all schools, Jamaica College. And that's where I did high school, the school that molded me into the person I am today. And after leaving Jamaica College, I migrated to the United States. My childhood memories of Jamaica is, just ingrained and engraved in me and made me who I am, just our culture, just the way we are. It has kept with me, even though I'd migrated. And pretty much I'm in the South Florida area, and we call the South Florida area Kingston 21 because literally, it's Jamaican to there's a lot of Jamaicans here. I'm a resident of the city of Miramar, which practically from the mayor down to all the commissioners have a Jamaican connection. My neighbors, Jamaica, it's Kingston 21. You lack nothing, and so it's almost like a little piece of Jamaica just found itself here in South Florida.
Yes, it's kind of like a Dutch pot of Jamaicans, all in, mixed up, 'cause we have, different Jamaicans. It's funny to go back to, I was in not Sam, that's is it Sam's or Home Depot, and I was with my youngest son, and he heard this gentleman, speaking the patois Jamaican accent, and when he looked, he was Caucasian, and he was like, "Mommy, he talking Jamaican, but he white." I said, "Look here, Jamaicans, we have white Jamaican, Chinese Jamaican, black Jamaican, Indian Jamaicans and stuff." But that was like an eye opener to him to hear, this, Caucasian man speaking, his, language, where his mom's from. It's like, wow,
Is that
okay.
it? And that was in Central Florida.
That was in Central Florida
Awesome.
here.
Yes.
So yeah.
I was telling someone here that when you hear someone speaking Jamaican here in South Florida / Kingston 21, it's not
Mhm.
a surprise. So you're not looking around like, oh, the person is Jamaican. You're not, because it's just normal. It's
Mhm.
it's normal here in Jamaicans. So
Yeah. And I think many years, when I came here, I've been here for like what, 39 years. So a lot of that was kind of new to now. It's just like, I feel like I'm in the island. It's not even like Central Florida. There's a distinguish. It's like, okay, you might hear Jamaican over here, somebody from Haiti over here, Trini over here, so it's like, one melting pot of all kind of different, Caribbeans, you know, in there, which I mean, I love it.
exactly.
Yeah. Now, I want to talk about what was your inspiration in creating Jamaicans.com. Like, why? I know you're from, the beautiful island of Jamaica, but what inspired you to create that, and how has it impacted the Jamaican communities around the world?
So when I first got on the internet in 93, I believe 93, could be early 94, I worked for an electronic marketing company. And I know I'm going to be dating myself for the younger people, but the older audience may know there was CompuServe, Prodigy, and AOL. And that's where we did mainly our electronic marketing. What we call a World Wide Web um, just started to come about and was opened up for the public. It was mainly used by the military, and so the visual part of the internet or the World Wide Web came. And when I did a search, there weren't many Jamaicans. There was barely anything on Jamaica. There were two things. There was an alumni directory, and there was a young lady, Althea, I believe. I did interview her later. She had a project that she created for her university. She was doing a degree, and she created this website, a one-page website, basically with some basic information on Jamaica. And me working for this electronic marketing company, learning how to code HTML amongst one of my duties, I said, let me put something out there about Jamaica. And I had a print newsletter called Enough Respect that was circulated here in South Florida that allowed me, I had content. So I took that content and repurposed that content and created the what it was then called the unofficial website on Jamaica. Back then, it took you a while. I started with another domain, a slash Jamaica domain. It took you had to give your first child your blood type and blood to get a domain name. Getting a domain name takes 5 minutes now, but back then it was quite a process: faxing, mailing, getting things certified, and so I applied for the domain name Jamaicans.com, and within the year, I got it, or less than a year, maybe about 9 months or something like that. I got it, and that's how we came into being. In terms of impact on the community, I think, we were out early. So we had built a community online. We had the information about Jamaica. And then we had our online forums, which is basically the first form of social media where people could chat, share pictures, and so forth. And we had the largest online forum on Jamaicans.com. And so to this day, some of those people are still my great friends. There were 3 or 4 marriages where people met on those forums on Jamaicans.com, and they got married and had kids. And so it was a place where the community could meet. It was a place where the community could share their stories. And it was a place where people could learn about Jamaica.
Wow. You know, as I was listening to you talk, and the beginning, how you started was so similar, because when I started, KU Magazine, I actually started off as a newsletter, and it was actually an event that I went to, and I was like asking different people, it's like, you know, the colors you have on, do you know what that represents? And they kept saying the island. And I was like, no, what do those colors mean? And they had no idea. And I'm thinking to myself, it's like, how can we be out there bigging up our, our island, our colors, and don't even know what they represented? So then
Mm,
I created a newsletter, and I started featuring, depending on the independence, and then some of the events that was going on, in Central Florida. And another good friend of mine that we know, Sandy Isaacs, she's like, man,
yes.
I love this. She said, you got to print some of these and bring them to my events and stuff. And then later on, she said, man, you need to turn this into a magazine. I said, a magazine? We don't have time for that. She said, well, look, same thing what you're doing with these newsletter, compile it. And that's how that started. And it started educating, every issue on independence and stuff. And even a friend of mine from Guyana, I featured Guyana in there, the waterfalls and some of the landmarks. And she's like, I felt so embarrassed because I've been there from a child and, even my adult age. And she said, these things that you mentioned in here, I didn't even know they were there. She said, no, when I go home back on vacation, I have to go visit these places, you
Awesome.
know? Yeah.
Awesome.
So the feedback of that, because, I wanted people that, when you read the magazine and you see all the beautiful landmarks and the culture, the food and everything, when you go on vacation, these are the things that you're supposed to enjoy, not just going to the beach and hanging out or maybe go shopping, but you have to, digest the whole cultural aspect when you
Exactly.
go on vacation. So when you come back and say, yes, the culture's in me now, you know.
Exactly. Exactly. And Sandy, we big you up. You're a legend, an encourager. We big you up, Sandy Isaacs.
Yes. Now, as we just talking that, with the culture, and I know many of us, once we leave the island, we may transition to Jamaica, not Jamaica, but to New York or to Canada, and then we all, end up here in Florida. What are some of your Jamaican traditions that are very important to you and your family that you still continue to uphold here in the United States without losing that identity, or certain traditions that you do, especially during the holidays with your family and friends?
So I think wow. It it almost feels like I've not lost some of the things I used to do in Jamaica because it's here. I do enjoy the independence celebrations. It's not the same like in Jamaica, but the galas, the flag raising that I see here. Um, the other thing I do enjoy is the cultural events. I do believe that culture is not funded enough. The arts are not funded enough, and so like plays. I enjoy going to my Jamaican plays. I enjoy going to the cultural performances. You have the Jamaica Folk Review here, and you have a couple others. Sierra Leone, Sierra, I'm messing the name up, but there's a church, Sierra Church, that they have some kids that they do perform, some of the traditional songs and dances, and they do add some modifications to modernize it. And so those are some of the traditions and things I enjoy. I've always taken my kids there. I joke that my kids learned the Jamaican national anthem before they know, and they'll say it, they learned the Jamaican national anthem before they knew the American anthem. But I
Mhm.
do enjoy that. I mean, the food, hey, it's here. So it's not like I'm missing the food. It's not like I'm missing my mangoes, my dear mangoes. But the plays, the cultural events is some of the things that I do enjoy here.
I wish there was a lot more here, especially, a lot of culture events. We have them more seasonal, you know, and even the mangoes here, they taste a lot different than down south. And I couldn't figure out, like, because every time I come down for a carnival, Miami Carnival, and I usually go to the Broward Flea Market and stuff and get, my sugar cane and mangoes and stuff. And then when I come up here, and I was like, why is this mango tasting? It tastes fresh versus down there, it has like a sweet, stringy taste because I love little stringy mangoes. It's juicy, well, it's just the juice is just melting down your hand and stuff and sticky and
Well,
you
well, you
know.
have to we have to come here in May, June, when it's the bulk of the season. Carnival down here is in what, October. So
Yes.
the mangoes, the mangoes you're getting here is some late come mangoes, I would say.
Yeah.
And you have to get them right off the trees. And the community here is just really great. And it's the same thing here. In Orlando. I know there's a strong Caribbean, strong Jamaican community. Once you have
Hmm.
choices, I always say this, once you have choices for restaurants, and the main one is once you have choices for patty. When you say, I'm going to either eat a patty here or eating a patty there,
Yeah.
the community has arrived. But the community here, I'm fortunate to have friends who know that, okay, if I get a Bombay, or if I have an extra Bombay mango or extra Julie, and then, because I have a tree, a East Indian, I may, give a East swap out to East Indian and so forth. So that is a lot of fun.
Yes, yes. I miss down south. I mean, I used to be back and forth when my mom lived in Fort Lauderdale. Friday, as soon as I get off work, I'm like hitting the turnpike straight down, and there's always something to do every weekend. There is something to do. So they definitely, South Florida, always keeping the Jamaican culture, the multicultural alive. So I love that. I hope soon that we'll have that same thing, just
Y'all are
maybe
getting there.
just ongoing,
Trust
not
me.
just seasonal, couple of events here, but you know
Y'all are getting there. Y'all are getting there.
we getting there. Yeah, yeah, we getting there. Now, it's incredible how the Jamaican heritage has encompassed so many aspects. What is the most important way to preserve or appreciate our heritage as a Jamaican?
So, folks, you're gonna hear me say this till I'm blue in the face, and you're putting your hands in your ears. Tell your story. That's pretty much what it is. No story is not wanted, or tell your story to your children, to your friends, to your relatives. Tell your story. Also, seek out stories. One of the things I love to do during when we have our family reunion, or when I have family over, is I sit down with my wiser, I won't call him elder, but wiser folks. And I ask them questions. What was it like growing up? What did what was life like in terms of a school day? What was a regular school day like? And so forth. Ask those questions. I'm proud to say my not kids anymore, my three young ladies do the same thing. They sit with their grandparents and they'll ask them questions. What was school like? What was your average day like? What was your teenage like? So not only tell stories, but ask questions about the stories of other people around you, of Jamaican heritage and Caribbean heritage,
Mhm.
because that's the way the culture goes on. Volunteer in organizations that are preserving our culture, or preserving our heritage, or helping folks back, whether it be through knowledge or through giving or so forth. So key thing you'll hear me always say is tell the story.
Yes, definitely. We have to tell our story. And that's all about education. Because, as a young child, our grandparents always have stories from when they, growing up. And, I used to hear a lot of them from my mother, even, from school, because she used to wake me up like 5 o'clock in the morning to study. And I was like, why so early? That's when your brain fresh. I had to walk like 50 miles to this school at this. And I'm just like, but we have transit, we have a car here. She said, we don't care. 5 o'clock is when you have to study, when your mind is fresh. So when you go to school, I used to hear so much stories. I mean, everything. You always have to put socks on your feet before you catch a cold. And
or
it's like,
or or the one where they drop a tip or a rum in your head when they
right in the
wash your
little,
hair,
with a
when
hole
they
when you
wash
was a
your hair.
baby.
so that you don't get sick, you
Yeah,
know.
the bay
And
rum, the
and
Vicks on your chest, and
oh, Vicks everywhere, you
Vicks
know.
everywhere. That was like
And
the cure of all cures.
tea cures everything.
Mhm.
There's a tea for everything, you know.
Yeah.
Drink liquor tea, you feel better. Drink liquor tea.
Or my brother-in-law, he used to make this chicken soup, and he used to call it Jewish penicillin. And I was telling you, if you sick or you have a stomach ache, I don't know what he puts in it, but once you drink that soup, within a couple of hours, like you back to normal. And for years, we weren't allowed to be even in the kitchen when he was making that soup. Even my sister. And I was like, "What's in the soup? Go, go see what he putting in there." And he was like, "Go on, get out the kitchen." He'd be all secretive and stuff. But
and
hey,
probably
whatever
drop
it is,
and
you
probably
know.
drop a tip of white rum in that soup.
Even my cousin, Al, Uncle Al, that one right there during COVID, we had a little group chat on WhatsApp, and he said, "Make sure before you go out, take a shot of rum." What do you mean take a shot of rum? He said, "COVID don't like Jamaican rum, Ray. Never making sure it's Ray, never you take a shot. And then have some, when you come back, take another shot and drink some warm tea." He said that gonna kill COVID. But I love the remedies, but but if you look back at some of the history and the knowledge that our, elderly, Jamaicans,
Yes.
our grandmothers and great grandmothers, that, if we instill some of this stuff today, it made a lot of sense.
Oh yes, they did. Definitely
Because
did.
I mean, they was good on growing stuff in the yard, and
All
and eat all
natural.
the provisions and
Yes.
everything, and they stayed healthy and stuff. Didn't have all these like sickness and stuff, and taking all
Exactly.
these pills, to my pills and
Yep. They
stuff. Yeah, my
stayed
mom
away
was
from that stuff. They did all natural. Everything
yeah,
was natural.
yeah,
You
my
know.
mom was good at that. She her little concoction of stuff there, but hey, it worked.
Exact.
Yeah.
Tastes bad, but it worked.
Oh yeah, and especially what's that one? Buckley, cod liver oil. Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh.
That
Yes.
one there, cod liver oil. She used to sneak that in my orange juice. And
Oh.
for years, I could not. It was like a trauma, a trigger every time I see orange juice because I always felt it was always in. And then sometimes I'd have to like, put my finger in, like, just to make sure it wasn't in there. And as soon as it start cough, here comes the Buckley.
Feral,
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
yeah.
Some
I know you're tired.
taste,
Comes a feral.
taste bad medicine. Taste bad medicine.
Okay. But it worked, you know. Okay, so this question here, I'm very biased because I'm a member of the Jamaican American Association as the outreach chair, and our event is the biggest of all the biggest events, in my opinion. Folks, don't get mad with me, but you know how we Jamaicans we do it. We gonna show out, and big up
Exactly.
our event as the biggest event of all times. So we are celebrating the 61st Jamaica's independence this year. And the theme is celebrating and understanding our culture and history. Xavier, in your opinion, how important is it not only to understand, but to teach Caribbean or cultural history in our schools? And the other folks out there, I know there's a big thing with this Black History Month in school, um, with the governor. Look here, don't be
So
mad at me. I am just being honest and truth because some of y'all don't want to talk about it, but I gonna talk about it. Your thoughts, Xavier?
so if you don't know your past, it's difficult for you to navigate your future. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so we can't avoid the past, not because it may make someone feel uncomfortable or it may make us feel uncomfortable. You just can't avoid the past. History is history. The past is the past. So it is very important to teach Caribbean heritage, Caribbean culture, or Jamaican heritage or Jamaican culture, Black history, Black culture. All of this is very important because again, learning your past helps you with your future. Why do we do some of the things we do? You know, we just talked about the white rum, okay, and I mentioned the tipping of a little in your head after you wash your hair. Some people may do certain things and not realize exactly where it comes from and understand why it was done. I come up on these questions all the time. Why do we call this? And I can't think of a specific example. Come to the gala, maybe I'll have a specific example at the gala in Central Florida on the 12th, August 12th. Come out, I'll be a speaker there, and maybe I remember. But there's some specific things that we do that, I go back and I will reach out to, who I call these Jamaican historians, cultural historians. Okay, bumpy head gal, Andrea Hutchinson, and Blacker Ellis. And I'll reach out, and whenever I'm stumped on something, I'm reaching out to them to say, why do we say this? Or, horse dead, cow fat, or whatever. And I'll reach out to them. And sometimes, and it's just amazing when you learn some of the history of some of our sayings and some of the history of some of the things that we do, and even how some of these tie back to when we were enslaved people, and out of necessity and out of not having inconveniences, some of these things come about. So that alone shows the importance of history and learning it and teaching it.
Yes, I definitely agree with you, Xavier, on that because, in the United States, we have such a large population of diaspora families that are here. And I think it's so important that they also know their cultural history and not just American history because, some of the young kids, they don't know this stuff,
Right.
where they're from, because you got to know your past, your future, you know, to understand where you move forward. How does that your
Yes.
culture entwine, you know,
And that's a
in your
key word
growth?
you mentioned, because um, you know our Jamaican history or Caribbean history is entwined with
Hmm.
Black history and or Black American history. Okay,
Hmm.
because the only difference is you've been dropped off at different spots. The ship came to the continent of Africa, enslaved people. Some of us got dropped off in Jamaica. Some of us got dropped off in Florida or the Carolinas or wherever. Funny story, or not a funny story, factual story, I should say. I'm fascinated by DNA testing, and so I did my ancestry, and I did the National Geographic DNA testing and African DNA testing. And about 8 years ago, a gentleman reached out to me, and our DNA said that we're relatives. But in terms of our history, he traces no one to Jamaica or the Caribbean. They're all from the Carolinas. So there's no one he could trace in his tree with all the questions. And I could trace no one in my tree that had the names or whatever. And the only thing we could chalk it up to is that it's basically, relatives on the slave ship, or relatives from the continent. And he's in Carolinas and I'm here in South Florida, but originally from Jamaica, but we're related. So this history is intertwined, so much, so intertwined. And we have lost the story, we don't have the documentation to tell our stories from back then. This is why, you know, the stories we could tell now must be preserved. The stories we have today, we must continue to tell. And again, you'll always hear me say, tell your story, because if someone else tells it, they're, you know, what's happening in Florida right now is someone else is dictating this, trying to dictate the story. And we've seen it
Yes.
online,
Hmm.
where we'll see somebody cooking a Jamaican recipe, and you're like, what are they creating here? Where did they get this recipe from? And if we're not telling our story through what we do, someone else will.
Yes, definitely. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but my great great grandmother was from Bangladesh.
Oh.
Yeah, they did some research, and I think it was my niece or some had researched it, and she sent a picture, and I was like, Bangladesh. I was like, so maybe that's why I like a lot of curry and Indian food. I said, okay, that's where maybe that's where all that stuff come from, that Indian part
Yeah,
there. But in my family,
that's
I mean, we were like United Nations. You know, my father's
right.
Costa Rican, and there was some mixture of like Trini in there on his side. There's also some of my family are Chinese. So if you see us, it's like we're like a United Nation. I remember years ago when, you know, on the application, job application, they used to ask, you know, what your race and stuff was, and I would put anything you're looking for. So this one guy had interviewed me. He said, "Why you never answered the question?" I said, "Well, I can't put a specific race because I'm a mixture of things. So if you're looking for Caucasian, I have Caucasian. If it's Chinese, I have Chinese. If you're looking for a Caribbean, an Indian, or whatever it is, I'm your girl." So that's like my qualification. My driver's license, it says other, you know?
Okay.
Yeah. And I wish I would put Caribbean or something on there, specify, because yeah, when you come from a mixed culture, and I'm looking forward to doing that DNA because I really want to see what else is going to pop up, you know, with me.
Yeah, that I won't hold a show. If I start talking about some of the stories on that, we will take up much of your time. It's a
Mhm.
whole journey, a whole
Yeah.
journey.
Now, you are the guest speaker for the Jamaican Association. And again, folks, the biggest event of all events in Orlando on August 12th at the Hilton Altamont Orlando Hotel. What are you looking most forward to coming to this event?
Well, I enjoy galas. I enjoy hearing, you know, other stories from people, and you know, just interacting with the Jamaican community there. I have two daughters that went to school right there in, you know, UCF. One is still there, and so you know, I'm quite familiar with the area. I have some good friends there, so I'm just looking forward to celebrating 61 with the Central Florida family there, and hearing from you all.
Well, we're excited. We're looking forward to having you come and speak. And of course, you know, I'm looking forward to catching up with you in person as well, you know, so we can
Nice.
talk more about that's another one of my love languages is culture, you know.
Yes.
So
Yes.
definitely. Now I was going to ask you a question of if you had to cook a favorite dish, what it would be. But I said, I got to put a different spin on it.
Okay.
So, if you were stuck somewhere in a country that did not have no Jamaican food, what would you miss the most and why?
I love curry goat. And so I I don't know for what reason, but you know, maybe as you said, there's some mix up somewhere on
Mm,
well, I know there is upstream in past family, but curry goat and white rice, oh, you know, and if you have roti, oh, Yeah, yeah.
And I was doing some research to see if there's any country anywhere that does not have Jamaican. And there was always something, because the different seasoning and stuff like that there. But then I came across Iceland. They don't have no Jamaican restaurants, but you can order it online and have it delivered. So I said, well, look here, folks, Iceland, me not go to, because I want to be able to Uber some Caribbean food if I can't get out. So you guys need to open a restaurant. Xavier, you need to talk to Iceland and see if you can do a hookup and get a Caribbean restaurant, a Jamaican
Well,
restaurant.
there's a
And
There's Jamaican there, so you
yeah,
never know because hey, you never know.
mhm,
It could be in the future.
yeah, yeah. Make sure some curry goat and jerk chicken, all that stuff is must have to be on the menu. Oh, now this other question, I love asking, everybody that I interview because I get so many different answers from it. The question is, has America inspired the culture, or has the culture inspired America?
Okay, so I would say the Jamaican culture has inspired America. Where do I even start? You just said it. I don't think there's a state in the United States that does not have a Jamaican restaurant. Okay, that's just bottom line. From North Dakota to Florida to Alabama to Texas to Hawaii. I went to Hawaii and there's a Jamaican food truck that, I mean, it's there. Jerk. The jerk cuisine is has traveled. Okay, music. Reggae music. The and the many genres that have been spawned off from reggae music, reggaeton,
Mhm.
rap, the influence on hip hop and rap, you know, that I could go on and on and on, even in terms of language, even in terms of, think about this one. How many commercials you hear with the what we call the reggae horn? Brr, 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 brr.
Yeah.
How many how many commercials you're hearing are people using that? Okay, because that started with the sound clashes and so on. In fact, that used to be done by mouth. Okay, I'm trying to remember the gentleman's name that they used in the dances in the early 70s, and he was the one that was the sound, all these sound effects that we're hearing, guns firing or horn or whatever. This is the man that was making those sounds in the mic. And now we have them. You can't go to a club, you can't go to a party, you can't go to, and you don't hear that type of pull up or whatever. So I won't I can't go on and on and on, but the culture has influenced America.
Definitely, especially now that, we used to have to go to a Caribbean grocery to get stuff. Now you're seeing things in Walmart, you're seeing things in Publix. Hey, they getting on the bandwagon. It's like, you know what? So yeah, I go test some bulla, and then I saw this can in Publix the other day, Solomon Gundy, and I'm like, what? All right, we doing it like that, Publix. So me little Jamaican crackers, with Solomon Gundy. I said, yeah, all right, all right. Publix, you all right with me, So we have our own little section of our little something right there. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that alone tells you you have to have a section in the supermarket where
mhm,
you could get this stuff. You know,
international, they call it the International Isle.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
So yeah, it is, we have influenced,
yeah,
definitely influenced the culture.
yeah. The vegetables, the fruits there, which is nice because you had to go to like one grocery store here, then we have to go over here to the Caribbean grocery store pick up. So it's nice that I can pick up everything in that one spot.
Exactly,
There's some things that may
exactly,
not be there, but majority of stuff, the little quick stuff I need is right there at our local grocery
exactly,
store. Yeah.
exactly. So yeah, it's amazing how things have changed, and we've seen the availability of products, the availability, and then the world has become a smaller place, because of technology, because of the internet, and so on. So yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Now, before we go, I have a few questions from the Jamaican American Association. Grace, Miss Joan, and Miss Canetta have a few questions for you. So, the first one from Miss Grace asks, "What has been the most interesting or unforgettable interview and why?"
Okay. So before I jump to that, the gentleman who originated some of these sound effects, his name was Joe Lickshot. I wanted to
Oh,
remember that
yes.
name. Okay, so Joe Lickshot was the one. So let
Mhm.
me go back to answer the question. All of these interviews for me have been really great. I have my personal favorite countries, not necessarily because of the guests, but
Mhm.
because of the country. But I love hearing these stories. I love hearing these stories of people who, you leave Jamaica, and you go to a country where there may not be a lot of Jamaicans, there are none. You're the only Jamaican there, and you find your way, you make your way, and you build a life there. So I enjoy doing all of these interviews. I won't say one more than the other, because the stories, I'm some of the folks, when I'm interviewing them, I'm seeing them for the first time on that live, because I don't want to do pre-interviews. With pre-interviews, I will not be as surprised when they say something. So when you see me surprised and amazed by it's real, it's authentic, because all we have done is probably communicated by email or WhatsApp before we jump on and we start this discussion. And if I do speak to them on the phone, I'm like, stop, don't tell me the story now. Let's wait till we go live. But so there are some countries that I was interested, that interest me a little bit more, not because of the guests, but because of the country. Um, I would say Russia was one with Christine. That was interesting for me. Cuba was another with Yannick. Um, then you had Kazakhstan with Danielle. That was interesting. And then because of having some Filipino friends, Davin in Philippines, and I could go on and on and on. But there are a couple countries. South Africa was also, and again, and these are countries that I was interested in. Not necessarily having a favorite guest per se, because all their stories are unique, all their stories are valuable, all the information that they provide is just really good information. And a lot of people have been using the Jamaicans to the World series on YouTube as a guide before they travel. At least once a week, I get a communication, minimum once a week, I get a communication from someone saying, I'm traveling to this country. Can you link me with the person that you interviewed with? And so I know it's having an impact on the community. And there are people that will communicate with them directly. There's Ramon in the U.S. Virgin Islands, and she will reach out to me like once a month saying, listen, you don't know what this interview has done, because for her, she has a store there in the US Virgin Islands, and people come off the ship and she'll tell me, she'll call me and say, Xavier, these people come here, they saw the interview and they come off the ship and they come directly to my store because they want to meet me. and,
Nice.
and so, there's so many great guests. I don't want to minimize by saying here is the top. I would say here are the countries I particularly wanted, but I think all the guests have very unique stories, and some of them are doing some amazing things.
Yes. Now, Ms. Joan, who is the president of the Jamaican American Association, wanted to know, of all the places you found Jamaicans living in, what surprised you the most?
Okay, so rephrase that. Is that a country she asking, or what surprised me about where they were living?
I think, because you've done a lot of interviews on, like the one we were just on with you,
Right.
Jamaica living in Central Florida. So I think she's referring to that. Which one, I guess, surprised you the most?
So, wow,
Where Jamaicans are living.
there, nothing at this point. I'll say nothing has really surprised me because I'd have to go back to, I started with 10, and then I realized that there are all these different countries that we're living in. I, I don't know if I'd say I don't know if I'd say I'm surprised after I started. It was just like there Jamaicans are okay. All right, I know which one was interesting. It's the Jamaican living in Iran. Yes, that one
Mm,
was I was like, I didn't think I would ever find a Jamaican in
mm,
Iran, and that one was one that caught me off guard.
mhm.
Is the Jamaican in Iran, and he absolutely loves living there. He's a chef, a head chef, and if you ever
Nice.
watch the interview, you'll see he's actually at work when we do the interview. I would say if there was one that, yeah, that would be the one. I would say that would be the one.
Yeah, I think that one there would really surprise me, and I'm curious. I have to go back and watch that one.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
yes. Is he had his name was Tory Jones, and yes, that was the one.
Awesome. And I think another one from Miss Grace had asked approximately how many interviews, I don't know if you know, since you began Jamaicans.com.
So we have the platform Jamaicans.com, which includes the Instagram, the TikTok, the Twitter, the Facebook page. So I'm gonna focus on the series Jamaicans to the World, and so far I've done 134 interviews for Jamaicans that are living all around the world.
Awesome. Well, Xavier, it's that time
It
that we
was
have
fun.
to go. I mean, and man, folks, I wish we could stay longer and chat because, again, there's so much stuff on Jamaican culture we could talk about for hours and
Oh
hours
yes.
and hours
Oh
and
yes.
never get bored.
Oh yes.
But any final words that you would like to share? How can we connect with you, the listeners that are tuning in right now?
So you could find us at Jamaicans.com. That's a website. On all social media, if you're looking for us, it's at Jamaicans DOTCOM. On YouTube, it's YouTube/Jamaicans. And my final word is the same thing I say. You're gonna tired of hearing me say this one. Tell your story.
Again, folks, it's important to celebrate our cultural heritage because it is an important part of our identity and our legacy. It provides us with a sense of community and helps us to understand our place in this world. It is important to preserve and protect the cultural heritage for future generations. Thank you all for tuning in today, and I especially want to thank my special guest, Mr. Xavier Murphy of Jamaicans.com, for being here and giving us a little history of the Jamaican culture. And folks, again, August 12th, you have to come out to our Independence banquet. You can go online at jaaocf.com, and there you can click on the link where you see the flyer to purchase a ticket online, and all the information's right there. But this is a must come to event. I'm telling you, just because I'm a member of the Jamaican Association or I'm a Jamaican, I'm just telling you, you need to come out. We don't care if you're Jamaicans or not. It's all about celebrating the culture and having some delicious cuisine, some good music, and we're just having a lot of fun. So again, folks, thank you all for tuning in on the Mia Allman Show, and we hope you enjoy this discussion of the importance of cultural heritage. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and continue to find your power of glow that equals our greater level of wellness.
Caribbean Under One magazine features inspiring stories of men and women from the Caribbean islands. We also feature recipes from Caribbean and American chefs, bring awareness to the latest health and wellness information in America and the Caribbean islands. Caribbean Under One magazine inspires and encourages the importance of living healthy while embracing your culture 365. So log on today and subscribe to kuomagazine.com. The Jamaican American Association of Central Florida invites you to our annual Jamaica Independence and Scholarship Awards banquet on August 12th, 6:30 till 1 a.m. at the Hilton Hotel in Altamont Springs. Our special guest speakers, Honorable Oliver Mayer, Consul General of Jamaica in Miami, Mr. Xavier Murphy of Jamaicans.com, and our MC, Lady D of CAC Radio. Special guest, Mr. Peter Gracie, Global Jamaica Diaspora Council Representative. Music by Caribbean Groove Band. Purchase tickets at jaaocf.com or call 407-292-3719. That's 407-292-3719. You do not want to miss this one.
This is Coach Lady Mia, host of The Mia Allman Show, presented by Official Woman of Culture 365 and executive producer of Glow 365 TV and radio shows. As a certified master life coach, I share honest conversations with individuals on various topics that affect men and women, mentally, physically, and spiritually, to celebrating our cultural heritage. So join me every first, second, and fourth Thursday right here on Caribbean Rhythms Radio Network, online at crrfm.com at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. You can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Glow 365 TV Show. So tell a friend to tell their friends and join me in the conversation to find your power of glow that equals our greater level of wellness within the mind, body, and soul.